My name is Mark Hummel. Welcome to Mark Hummel's Harmonica Party. Our podcast today is with my friend Country Joe McDonald, and we are in Berkeley, California today. And we're going to just talk about, who knows? We're going to talk about anything and everything, if that's all right. Joe and myself are both from Southern California. You grew up there.
San Gabriel Valley, El Monte.
Yep. And you were born in L.A.?
I was born in Washington, D.C. and moved to California when I was 3.
Okay.
And moved to El Monte when I was 4 or 5.
All right. Now, how was it El Monte became where your family lived?
Well, I went back decades later. I went back to Oklahoma to Sallisaw, Oklahoma, where my father grew up. And I realized that that's why he really wanted to settle in El Monte. It looked like Sallisaw, Oklahoma. There were like no sidewalks, and the houses had yards, and it had a rural feeling. And it just happened by luck that it was next to Baldwin Park, where the town hall party was held, and it was just the perfect place for them. And they had an American Legion Stadium, and the radio played all genre of music, just because Southern California was a hot spot for small independent labels.
Right. So you heard a lot of early rock and roll, I guess, as a kid.
Well, for me, it was rhythm and blues. It
Right.
wasn't a rock and roll. I remember rock and roll, but rock and roll was a little bit too vanilla, shall we say?
Right.
Bland. But there was all that basic R&B stuff, and also country western stuff from the town hall party, and also cool jazz from the Lighthouse All Stars.
All right.
Hermosa Beach, Lighthouse All Stars, and gospel music, great gospel place. And Spade Cooley had a Western swing program on the radio.
Wow.
And there was Hunter Hancock had his radio station, and he played music, and his assistant on the radio was the wife of the lead singer of the Platters. I remember that. And a guy named Rudy Marini had a late night show from Dolphins of Hollywood.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
And he would play rhythm and blues.
Wow.
Really basic Don and Dewey, Laverne Baker, all the basic R&B stuff, that was the stuff that stuck with me.
Yeah.
But I also grew up with the country western and
I've never heard of the town hall. What's the town hall party?
It was Grand Ole Opry West.
Oh.
It was Grand Ole Opry, which is in Nashville, yeah.
Right.
And town hall party in in Baldwin Park, right next to El Monte, and Louisiana Hayride in Chicago, I think.
The Louisiana Hayride was in Shreveport.
Well, that was a circuit for these package shows, these big, in Baldwin Park. I remember seeing the Collins Kids.
Wow, yeah.
And when he was, the guitar was bigger than him, actually. He had a two-necked guitar.
He's still around.
And Joe Maphis just played all the time, and just all the great country western people.
Now, and you got into music in high school? You played trombone first, is that right?
I played the trombone for a long time, and we played semi-classical stuff and marches. And in high school, I became the band president and the student conductor. I was dabbling in theory and harmony and doing a little conducting, but still playing the trombone. But then my father got a guitar, and he was trying to learn how to play the guitar, and he couldn't do it. And I just one day picked up the guitar and had a Mel Bay chord book. And that early rhythm and blues stuff was all tonic, subdominant. It was like 1 chord, 2 chords, 3 chords. It was, if you could play those chords, you could sing any of the songs, the country western songs, the pop songs, or the rhythm and blues songs. And so much to my surprise and delight, I was playing the guitar and singing and actually dabbling and writing songs.
Wow. And how old would you have been
16.
at that point? 16.
Yeah.
Okay. And you graduated at 17 or 18?
I graduated at 17. I was a little
Okay.
bit younger.
Yeah. And now did you say you went straight into the Navy at that point, or?
Yeah, it was during the summer that I enlisted, and I went in November of '59. The funny thing is that in boot camp, I couldn't learn how to tie the knots, all those Navy knots you had to learn how. And I heard about the Drum and Bugle Corps, and then I went to the Drum and Bugle Corps, and I realized much, much later that I could have joined the Navy band. But I didn't know anything about it, and it would just.
And you were playing guitar by then.
Oh, well, I was playing
could have
guitar
done
and the
or
trombone,
trombone,
and,
yeah.
and, you know, I could read music, but
Right.
anyway, I didn't. So I had my 3 years, about 2 years and some change in Japan. It was a great duty. It was really great. I really loved it.
Did you learn to speak Japanese at all?
A little bit, yeah. I had a Japanese girlfriend I was quite in love with, and I had some conversational Japanese, and I liked the music.
And then did you move back to LA, or?
Yeah, I went back home. My parents were still in El Monte. My mother, who was a librarian for a chapter of the Communist Party, I think that's how she had these 78 RPM records, which I played and grew up with, along with the cool jazz and the R&B.
Right.
It was just another genre of,
Right.
and I was kind of surprised actually when in the 60s and in the 70s, people were discovering Woody Guthrie.
Okay, so basically when you got back to LA from the service, you were pretty much still into, R&B, cool jazz, country.
You have to understand, it was at the time of the civil rights movement, and we had a folk music club. So I was back to playing the guitar and actually writing some songs. We would go out and we would do these little demonstrations, march around singing freedom songs.
Right.
Which I recognize.
So was this about 63?
Yeah, 63, 62. That got me back into, because I recognized the melodies for these freedom songs. I knew them as old gospel and old black folk music.
Right.
And I really enjoyed that, We'd clap our hands and sing, ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Gonna keep on walking and keep on talking and walking the freedom land.
Right. Now, were those the original lyrics, or were those?
Yeah.
Those were okay.
I think so.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But then the most important thing happened to me. So I started making a little magazine, which had poetry and songs in it. I had written a couple other songs and some essays and cartoons. And then at the same time, my sister, when I came back from the Navy, she was really into Joan Baez. And so, my father hated Joan Baez. He said she had this screechy voice. But
see, that's how come she stepped on your foot.
that might have been the reason. I don't know. But anyway, she gave me a great gift because my whole family went to see, at the Hollywood Bowl, went to see Joan Baez. And during her show, she introduced this guy. And it was Bob Dylan.
Wow.
And she said, I want you to hear this guy. Then I think you'll like him. And Bob Dylan got up, harmonica rack,
right,
guitar, and sang that stuff from the first and second album.
Yeah.
And I thought, literally, I can do that. And I did it.
And you did it.
Yeah. And then pretty soon I got really tired. I got married and we were really sick and tired of there was going nowhere in LA State College. And I was showing up on the wrong day for classes. And I'd look around and I think that the instructor was...
Sounds like something I'd do now.
The instructor would be talking about something and I'd think, I don't remember this. And I'd look around, I don't remember anybody in this class. And I'd realize, it's on Friday, it's not on Thursday.
Oh, it's the wrong class.
So I thought, I got to get out. I'm a lousy student.
Yeah.
So I went up to San Francisco to be a beatnik. But this was 65.
So it was already done.
It was over. The beatniks were over. My wife's uncle, who lived in Lafayette.
Oh, okay.
And we went there just temporarily. And he said to me one night, he said, "You ought to go on KPFA and sing your songs. There's a radio station where you can go sing your songs."
Wow.
And I went, "Oh, wow." Okay. And I went there and I sang my songs. And then I said, "We're moving to Berkeley." And then we moved to Berkeley. That's the reason why.
That is so wow. So you never went to school here?
No.
Wow.
I wasn't a student.
Well, that's like me. I mean, I ended up in Berkeley. People will go, "Were you a student?" I was never a student here.
Right.
I just liked the town.
And the weird thing is, and this is just me talking, is that I grew up in essentially a working class family.
Right.
My parents didn't graduate from high school,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have any fancy schmancy books in the house. We had Woody Guthrie and Langston Hughes and stuff like that. But anyway, I love Berkeley for its diversity for many, many reasons. But Berkeley is full of intellectuals. And intellectuals don't really like music, I don't think.
Probably not. Yeah.
And so people would say to me, in the free speech movement, I would say, no, that's not my jam, really, you know. The second teach-in against the Vietnam War was held in Berkeley, and Jerry Rubin was setting it up, and he assigned me a microphone and a place to do music while people were coming in, and Malvina Reynolds came by, and we sang to people coming in, and nobody paid me attention to us. But I did sell my EP. At that time, I had an EP with Fixing to Die Rag on it. And
so was that
Barry
65
Melton.
Or something?
Yeah, 65.
Okay.
October of 65, and I sold them for like 50 cents. It was in a brown paper envelope.
Sleeve,
yeah, with a 7-inch on it. A song about the Watts riots, which dates it, and Fixing to Die Rag, and it was skiffle, and it was Barry Melton and me.
Now, was this before Chris Strachwitz recorded it?
No, Chris Strachwitz recorded that EP.
He
that
did
I'm talking
record
about.
that EP.
Yeah, and that came about because we were making this magazine called Rag Baby Magazine, and there was so much going on at that particular time, Love-In and the free speech movement, and all. We forgot to get copy for the magazine. Duh.
Magazine without articles.
Nothing. But anyway, I said, okay, we'll put a talking issue of the magazine out, and that's how the EP happened.
So that was basically the talking.
That was the talking issue, and we stopped by Campbell Coe's music shop and rented an amplifier and an electric guitar, and Barry played electric guitar on a song called Superbird, so it was actually folk rock.
Okay. Now, was this just you and Barry, or
No,
was
there
it
was
the
about
entire...
3 other people. Bill Steele played washed up bass, and Carvel Bass played the kazoo.
Gotta have a kazoo. Can't have a skiffle band without a kazoo.
No, that's right. You must.
Yes.
Our manager was Ed Denson.
Oh, right,
who had
Denson was your manager.
who had
Right.
Tacoma Records.
Right.
So he knew Strachwitz.
Right.
And we just went to Chris's. He was leaving the next day for Europe to do something, and he just hung a microphone from his lamp in his
Right.
living room,
In
and
his
that's how we
living
played
room,
it.
yeah.
So then we made like 100 of those things or something, but somehow the word got out, and Students for Nonviolence or STS or somebody gave us Barry and me, a tour of the Northwest. And we went up to Reed College, I guess it is, and another one in Portland or something. We did this little tiny tour as Country Joe and the Fish.
And Country Joe and the Fish was literally you, Country Joe, and Barry Melton was the Fish.
Right, and we were
Right.
we were acoustic.
Right.
We were acoustic.
Yeah.
But we came back, and Bob Dylan went electric.
Right.
And David had never played the keyboard before.
Right.
We bought a Farfisa organ for him, and I don't know how we got the money, but anyway, we did, and we got a bass for Bruce to play bass. He'd never played bass before.
Right.
But it was like Paul McCartney played the
Right.
bass like that.
Right, that was a
Except
Hofner,
that this
yeah.
one, the fretting was off, and it never got in tune. So I fought with Bruce. I fought with Bruce for 3 years about whether he was in tune or not, and he
Oh,
would
my
always say,
God.
"No, I'm not. I'm in tune." And I would say, "No, you're not."
With yourself,
You gotta
maybe.
take that bass and throw it in the garbage.
Right.
But anyway, so he went electric, and then we went electric, and became an electric rock and roll band.
And David Bennett Cohen played guitar as well.
He played
Did he
guitar.
originally play guitar, or did he originally play keys?
He played both.
Both.
Yeah,
Okay.
he played both. And Barry
Yeah.
and Bruce, and then we had a drummer, John Francis Gunning, but he was gone out of the thing, and Gary Chicken Hirsch became our drummer he's on the first 3 albums, I think
Right.
it is.
And how did you guys end up getting signed to Vanguard?
Kind of makes sense because it was the lefty circuit.
Right.
So
that
there
you
was
guys were playing. Yeah.
so Ed Denson somehow and Arhoolie knew of Vanguard Records, I guess, and Sam Charters.
Right.
Vanguard sent Sam Charters out to the Bay Area to look for this new talent called acid rock and all that,
Right.
and see if he can sign somebody. And he went to the Fillmore and he heard the Charlatans and some other people. He didn't really like them. And then Ed Denson, because he was sleeping on Ed Denson's floor, I think. I mean, this is really tiny stuff. And he said, well, okay, let me hear that band you're managing. What the hell?
I got nothing better to do.
And we played songs for him, but I had this one song where I had copped this, and there's no way to get along, and I put it in one of my songs, and Sam recognized it, that I'd copped it from this old guy blues thing.
Interesting.
And that was what he really liked. And it
So
never
in other words, if he heard something that kind of was recognizable to him, that's kind of what
I guess
got him interested. Yeah.
But he wasn't put off by the weird stuff, Section 43 and Grace later
Right.
on, and
Right.
allowed us. Actually, the way he arranged the songs for the 2 albums, I thought was really good. But the weird thing is that he played the piano, and he'd actually been in a skiffle band, but he never talked music to me ever.
See, now that's one thing I wanted to ask you, the skiffle band thing. It's really interesting to me that the Bay Area and London had this thing about skiffle bands. No, it's true. I mean, a lot of the bands in England started as skiffle bands, like the Stones and all these other groups.
Well, you had no money. And what do you need for a skiffle band? You need a jug.
A jug, a harmonica maybe,
and
kazoo.
a wash can that you could put
maybe a guitar.
Yeah, you need a guitar. You definitely need a guitar, but building around the guitar, you get a washed up bass,
Right.
which you can make out of you just need a pole and a piece of rope, and so you got a bass, and then a washboard.
Right.
Yeah, you need a washboard for a rhythm
For
section.
timing, yeah.
For a rhythm
Yeah.
section.
Yeah.
And a kazoo, and you can add on to it. And we didn't have any money,
Right.
which also inspired us to dress the way we were,
Right.
because we couldn't go buy retail.
Yeah.
I mean, we were really poor.
So you'd be basically going to thrift stores or
Oh, yeah.
Salvation Army,
or somebody
whatever.
would give us a shirt
Right,
we'd wear,
right,
So
right.
and then people got. I remember at one point this class came to see us play, and we had some chicken wire on the stage, and we were in our jeans and stuff, and they wrote this essay for the professor that we enhanced.
Oh yeah, that's the one with the Matrix.
We enhanced our image by putting chicken wire on the stage, our country, because it was called Country Joe.
Country Joe. Yeah, all you needed was chickens in there.
Originally, before Electric Music from the Mind and Body, before Vanguard and everything, we worked out of Sierra Sound Studios, which had a 4-track. We were ping-ponging. Well, it was just really primitive way of recording. But what happened was that we got a gig playing at the Matrix
Right.
in San Francisco. But they told us at the last minute that you had to be 18 to play, and Bruce and Barry were 17. I got this great idea that we would record the bass parts and the lead guitar parts in Sierra Sound Studios, and he would mix them down to a hi-fi reel-to-reel tape. But when we recorded it, we didn't record a counting in. It was edited out, or even the title. I didn't write a list of what. So we did like about 6 or 7 songs that way, bass and guitar, only bass and guitar. I mean, we were playing, but we were playing all together, but they were doing theirs direct, so there was no bleeding on the tape. So then we were really tired. It took like all day long to do this. And then John Francis Gunning, who was the drummer then, said, he said, I got a handful of LSD. I think if we take that, it'll give us a little buzz give us a little buzz and energy, so
A little lift.
a little lift, so we can, so we can do this show tonight. And we said, what a great idea. So I remember put it all in one jar and tried to dissolve it all, and we all took sips out of the jar and whatever. And then we got in the car. I think we only had one car. We had to all get in the car with our gear, and just, it was crowded. And anyway, we go over to the Matrix, and as we walk into the Matrix, Ed Denson, who was our manager at that point, I remember the look on his face when we came in. It was like, what? Oh my God, here comes trouble. Because we were the acid was starting to kick in.
Yeah.
And so
no set list, no counts.
Nothing. So we went, and it came time to do this show, and I realized, and so Ed came, and he was right below my feet with this reel-to-reel thing, and I said, okay, hit it, pal. And they had a microphone on the tape recorder, and so then, and we're all like really stoned, and all of a sudden we hear from the microphone, through the microphone, from the tape recorder, we hear electric bass playing and electric lead guitar playing. I have no idea what song they're playing. I have no idea what the song they're playing. and so I decided that it was bass strings, and I started to sync up the the riff that I played for bass strings to what was coming out of the tape recorder. But the problem was that the guitar neck was at that point turning into a snake. And it was writhing.
And you didn't really want to pet the snake.
Well, I was trying to do it, but it was like, it was writhing in my hand. It wasn't like going loud. It was like going and glowing, And I looked over John Francis, and he was sweating like crazy, trying to find the downbeat. And so I said, okay, stop. And Ed stopped. And I said, advance, go ahead. And so then we hear, okay, play. And he starts playing another thing, which is electric bass and lead guitar. I have no idea what the hell he's playing, but I figure it's not bass strings, because we just tried that. So maybe it's Superbird or something. And the same thing happened. It's like the neck is writhing. I look over at David. He's playing something, but he's starting to look really stressed out. And Bruce, I don't know what he's doing. But anyway, we did that for like about 3 songs, and it was ridiculous.
Painful.
And then one of those LSD fake profound moments hit me, and I stopped the band, and I said to the audience, "This proves that man cannot play with a machine." Which I don't know if the audience
Hence,
thought.
it went forevermore.
I don't know if they thought, wow, what did he say that for? And I said, then followed by the thing that really pissed the manager of the club off was, I said, if I were you, I'd ask for my money back. And a bunch of people did, yeah. A bunch of people did. And we left and went into the dressing room, and still tripping our brains out. So the next day, because we had 2 days, the next day they decided they're going to put up chicken wire, like in the Blues Brothers show.
Right.
They put chicken wire across the stage going into the dressing room. So Bruce and Barry would not have contact.
That's so great.
So they could get alcohol.
They couldn't get to the bar that way.
Couldn't get alcohol. And so we come up, and we weren't stoned that night. And so we played a regular set. But it turned out, like I said before, that a professor from UC had sent his class to go and check out this new music and new hippie thing and write an essay about it, and they did, and that's when they said that we enhanced our country image by putting up chicken wire.
Did the venue put it up, or did you guys?
The venue put it up. The truth is really entertaining.
Stranger than... You guys were kind of the only psychedelic band from the East Bay, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But I think of this genre called psychedelic music, and there's us, and I guess Pink Floyd is considered psychedelic. I wouldn't say the Dead were psychedelic at all. They were like an R&B band or something, and the Charlatans. No.
So you don't think the Airplane or the Dead or bands like that or Quicksilver were psychedelic?
It's hard. I don't know what it's like. I know that if you listen to electric music for the mind and body, that is psychedelic
That is very
music.
psychedelic.
That's psychedelic
yes,
music.
Absolutely.
And when I got to the Bay Area and I got involved with this Country Joe and the Fish thing, and that an explosion came out of my head. It was like I'd been waiting my whole life to be in an atmosphere where I could write these tone poems that are going on in my head, and I did it. It amazes me till this day. I remember on Grace, I was watching Grace sing with not the Airplane, but before.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I realized, I thought to myself,
Darby Slick or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
she needs better material than this. She's really like an art singer, you know.
Right.
She's got the voice for it. So I wrote Grace for her to
really?
sing,
Wow.
to sing.
Did
But I
she
never
do it?
never told her.
Really?
I was too shy.
great.
I
That's
never told
funny.
her. And then I decided, well, we'll just play it, you know.
Yeah.
Ourselves.
Did you?
Yeah, we played Grace,
Oh,
of course.
okay.
It's,
Yeah.
it's on that first album.
All right, I got to
It's
listen
very,
again to that.
totally psychedelic. That and Section 43.
How did you write Section 43?
It's this way of tuning the guitar when the top E and standard tuning and the bottom E is dropped down to D,
Okay,
and it becomes a modal D sound.
right.
And I had with the influence of Bob Dylan, I had a rack and I had a harmonica, and I happened to have a G harmonica. I like the key of G. It's a pretty simple, easy key to write in. I had the harmonica rack on, and I had this drop D configuration, and I realized they go together. I can play this G major harmonica against this D modal, and it comes out in a minor scale, and it's perfect. And then I really quickly wrote it. I mean, it's kind of an art thing because it's very strange. It's more semi-classical than anything else, and I just composed it right there.
And you were saying the band really rehearsed that.
Oh well, I had to teach it to the band.
Yeah.
Because the band was playing my repertoire.
Right.
And quite willingly, you know. And I always stretched it out so that Barry could have a solo, or at least somebody else would have a solo. I wasn't really set on there being no solo when I'm doing my vocals. I even allowed it when Barry used to play around my vocals, so there was always something coming on, kind of a Baroque sort of approach to it. And then we played Section 43. It was like, man, kind of gives me goosebumps thinking about it now. That was a love affair, that original band thing.
It's a great psychedelic piece.
Oh yeah,
That song.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever covered it or anything.
Well, it'd be a hard song to cover too.
It would be hard,
Yeah.
but it's certainly possible.
Yeah. Now the other thing you told me was kind of interesting. You said when you came up with titles, a lot of times you really didn't care if the title had anything to do with the song.
And Janis accused me of doing that. Yeah, I don't know. People say, "Why'd you call it Section 43?" I have no idea.
Right.
I have no idea. You know?
Yeah.
But years later, I realized that it's better to have a title for a song that somehow fits into the lyrics of the song. Of course, this was an instrumental,
Right.
so so that people can find it or something. You know, like.
Right.
But anyway, I did that. It was a really experimental, free moment.
Yeah.
For music.
Music in the Bay Area, for sure.
And the Bay Area,
Yeah.
when you think about it, the Bay Area has been an explosion for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Not just beatniks, but the gold rush and
Yeah.
Levi's and French bread and poetry.
You think that's because of all the cultures that kind of have converged here?
Maybe
because it's a port.
Yeah, well,
wonder.
that has something to
Yeah.
do with it, but there are other ports, and it didn't
Yeah.
happen. You know, so
But I'm saying, I think you're right about the gold rush, because the
Yeah.
gold rush was one time when everybody from all over the world ended up here. And in a way, the 60s were sort of a similar thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whatever we were doing there, you're right about London at the same time, but also France and
Yeah.
also Germany. The explosion of the Aquarian Age
Right.
changed really everything culturally on the planet for middle class middle-class countries.
Right.
And then eventually even down to non-middle-class countries, as other elements came in and out. But it was a
But it was
magic.
a very short window, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, when you think about it, but it was a couple years,
Yeah.
and that's a long time.
66 to maybe 68. What do you think? Something like that?
Well, the 60s for sure.
Yeah.
But by the end of the 60s, the orchestra playing behind a pop song was gone, And, well, I mean, the 70s had, when were Allman Brothers?
That was late 60s,
I
early
consider
70s.
them a psychedelic band.
They
and
were
I don't
kind of
know why.
psychedelic, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I mean, to me, a lot of the blues-based thing started here in terms of rock music because of Bill Graham, and Butterfield coming out here, Mike Bloomfield kind of being Bill Graham's advisor. It seemed like the blues and jazz and rock all kind of converged in the Bay.
Oh, for sure.
You know.
We saw the Butterfield Blues Band up at the Harmon Gym. They would take solos, but they would take 3 verses. 3 verses.
Right.
Elvin played 3 verses solo, then Bloomfield played 3 verses, then Butterfield played 3 verses. That's really hard to do when you're instrumentally to play 3 verses that are different than each other, not just the same thing over and over again.
Right.
So that was an explosion. I don't know what blues typically was, but I don't think it was that. They came in, they had the background for blues, but they did psychedelicize it.
They did
turned,
psychedelicize
and
it.
And
yeah.
it's like that what's the name of that crazy band where the guy has an amplifier that goes to 11?
Oh, Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
It's a joke. But the thing is that nobody turned the amps up until we did.
Right.
There was always a 10 there.
Right.
But nobody, and then we discovered feedback.
Right.
And I remember watching Bloomfield. He had that Fender guitar with a chrome thing over the
like
over the bridge on the bottom.
Telecaster or something.
Yeah. And after he'd finish, he'd play a solo, and then he'd go bam, and he'd flip that thing off, and I'd go. And I thought, wow, this is so cool, Yeah, showmanship came in.
Yeah.
It was a rare time because I do believe that as far as a group is concerned, it is a marriage and a sharing of a love, and it has a sexual energy to it that's made up of all the different disparate parts of the group, all the different personalities.
Right.
They don't necessarily have to get along with each other off stage,
Right.
but musically they make up something. And so when you think of that era, you think of the band. You think of the original members of that band or whatever it was,
How
be
they
it Allman
interacted
Brothers
or
or
whatever,
Butterfield or
Yeah.
whatever, and then all of a sudden and there were no superstars. We never
Right.
thought about stardom.
Right.
It was just we were all egalitarian in a way.
Yeah.
And
Worker among workers.
yeah,
In a sense. Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I remember there was one point there where I realized that we used to look forward to the weekend to hear music, but that all of a sudden every day was booked at a venue. Every
Right.
day was booked.
Right.
There was no weekend anymore.
Yeah.
It became a glut of music,
Right.
and it changed. It really changed. That individual touch of what you seldom hear about it now. There's like, what's that South Korean boy band? They're all made up of all the different personalities. They're very popular now. But generally speaking, it became one soloist with a backup group,
Right.
as opposed to a group. And it was traumatic when, remember, somebody would leave the group and we
Right.
would go like, "Oh my God, no!"
How are they going to exist without him?
Yeah, and they exist, but it's never the same.
It's not the same.
No.
The scene around here in the 60s between rock and blues and jazz, do you think all three of those, like, or including, I guess, folk music as well, kind of came into your guys' thing as well, right?
I guess you can call it a mix. I don't know how. Some things I don't think mixed with other things, but there definitely was a mix and a new sound emerging. I remember when I was learning music in high school and I was supposed to go to USC and maybe to the LA Philharmonic. So I was doing pretty good, high level there. And my instructors always tell me, slow is the most difficult thing you can do.
Right.
Slow. Play slow. Because having your ambiance and your textures and everything, that's the hardest thing in the world. Fast can be easy as fuck.
Right.
And when I listen to the old masters, like Delta blues guys,
Yeah.
And they're playing really simple stuff, and
Yeah.
their rhymes, like the rhymes are like haiku or something. It's like it sends chills down my spine when I hear those.
Son
Anyway,
House. Or,
yeah, Son House
yeah.
and those guys. They were like,
Buckle White. Guys
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
and what they're playing, it seems simple, but it's really, really
Yeah.
difficult.
That's why I've always been real leery when guys go, "Oh man, I can play the blues. Anybody can do that."
Well, yeah.
Not true.
Well, you can play the blues badly.
You can play it badly, right?
Yeah.
What do you remember as, say, your favorite shows at the Fillmore with you guys?
Do you remember watching Otis Redding dress his trumpet player down?
Really? Backstage?
No, on stage.
Oh,
during
really?
the sound check, and I thought that was impressive. And the guy fixed the problem, And the blues always has a tinge of back to slavery.
Right.
Hard times.
Right.
Really, really hard times.
Right.
It's not sorrowful music. It's got great strength to it, but it ain't bullshit.
No.
It's the real stuff.
It's the real deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The hardest thing for me sometimes is when people forget that.
Well, how would they
You
know?
know.
They get no teaching. Nobody's
Yeah.
teaching them stuff. My parents, they were in the Communist Party at one point, but then they left. But they did get this left-wing newspaper, and every Black History Month, they would publish a big spread of lynchings.
Wow.
And so I knew, and this was I'm 12 and 13 years
Right.
old looking at this, and I knew that when they talk about, racial whatever, injustice and everything, this is the nut of it right here.
That's right.
And when Emmett Till got killed, I was about the same age, and I thought, well, woo, that could happen to me.
Whoa. Yeah.
Sometimes it's just beautiful music, but if you're talking about some kind of subject, it has to be. That's why I don't like pop music.
One of the things that was interesting, I was watching this thing on the Grateful Dead, and they talked about how they just didn't care. They could care less about getting a commercial hit. They really didn't care about. And I assume you guys were probably on the same boat.
I haven't written I never wrote a song in my life thinking I'm going to write a song that's a commercial hit.
Right.
But when you think about it, I wish I'd have had that gift.
In a way, you did have the one song. You had "Fixin' to Die,"
well, it's good to have something.
Which certainly got you a lot of notoriety.
But if I had actually done that and made a lot of money, I probably would have wasted it. So it worked out. It's okay. But some people can. I'm thinking of Carole King.
Right.
When you have genius writers who are just writing one after another of really great songs.
Right.
You can do that with the Beatles too. You can say, or Bob Dylan, or you can say, they never read anything. It's a bunch of crap except for this. As
you keep going.
Exactly. Except for these 25 songs.
Yeah, except for these 25 songs, it is a bunch of crap.
Right.
Would you say Dylan was an influence on you?
Well, he had to be, of course. He influenced me to be what he was doing with write songs and have a harmonica rack and stuff and write my own songs. And he destroyed the format for songs. He destroyed the verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus,
and 3-minute song
bridge.
For that matter.
Oh yeah, and the 3-minute song. He blew out the accepted structure.
In a way, the bands around here kind of did that too, somewhat.
Yeah.
Because by the time a lot of you guys came out, like basically FM radio was playing, 20 and 30-minute songs.
Right. It was a free-form era.
Yeah.
It was really, really wonderful.
Pretty excited. Yeah.
And then afterwards, it it got to be too long. There was the outro
Right,
thing, and then
right.
it got to be too long. It's too much. I mean, it's like, okay, so all of a sudden in the middle of the song you're having a free-form jam, but it's been going on too long. Stop.
Well, it's kind of like Cream or something, you know. I know he got really disgusted after a while with 20-minute jams.
But Cream, wow.
That was a great band.
Disraeli
Gears. Yeah.
Wow.
Did you see those guys at that point?
No, I never did, but I sure heard the album and the music. It's like, wow, fucking incredible.
Now, you saw Hendrix you said at Woodstock. Was that the only time you saw him?
I saw him one other time. We played in Southern California. The promoter had scattered, it was in the summertime, and had scattered flowers all over the venue because of flower power.
Right.
And I was having allergy attacks. So I met Jimmy, and I was talking to him, and I was saying, like, hey, Jimmy, it's really nice to see you. and I couldn't talk to him because I was sneezing so bad. So that's the one interaction I had with him.
That's funny.
And the other one was, because at Woodstock, I got there early, and I saw a lot of the stuff played.
Yeah, you told me you were there all 3 days.
I was there all 3 days, and I was there in the end.
Right.
When
when he closed
about
it out.
1/3 or one half of the people were gone, and out in front of the stage it wasn't jammed up to the, and I saw him play Star Spangled Banner.
Right.
I mean, I was just really close, just standing there.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is the guitar is never going to be the same. Never, never be the same after this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
So what do you think it was about all these like famed musicians from that era, all kind of dying at such a close intervals? I'm serious.
The
I mean,
27-year-old thing?
Yeah, the 27-year-old thing. I mean, between
well, they had to die
they
had to die sometime.
Brian Jones, Janis Joplin, Hendrix, Jim Morrison, all these people, died within this very narrow, time.
Well, just between you and me, I'll tell you what I think, but be careful. Don't spread it around.
I won't spread it around.
I think Paul McCartney killed him.
You think he was the walrus?
I think he poisoned him.
I think you're right.
Yeah. He couldn't stand the competition.
I know. They were getting too much of the glory at that point.
It's rough being famous, though, I'll tell you that. It is really not easy. And
so you think the pressure has a lot to do with that?
And the glorification of not only just drugs, but alcohol.
Right.
I mean, the glorification. This country is alcohol crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch television shows and movies, every fucking thing they do, they're drinking.
Right.
Hey, I saw the gardener today. Let's have a beer for the gardener. It's
right.
like, yeah. Right. Oh, wow, I ate a sandwich today. Hey, let's have a whiskey sour for the sandwich. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And when you're being treated, for Janis, I always heard that the Southern Comfort people sent her cases of Southern Comfort.
Wow.
Was
she drinking much when you guys were going out?
What was that English girl who was really good?
Melanie?
No, contemporary who died.
Oh, Amy Winehouse.
She was in my opinion, a really, really talented.
She was amazing.
Jazz composer
amazing.
And singer.
Yeah.
But it happened so fast with her that you could see it happening.
Yeah.
How she had a regular life, she had talent, she became a successful person, and that success drove her crazy, and then the downward spiral, it was all recorded. You could see it happening right in front of your face.
Yeah.
It's just sad. It really is sad. If all those people were alive today, the music they would be making would be fantastic.
So you think a lot of that has to do with people just being sensitive? That people are sensitive, and then all of a sudden, fame is just like
Well, I think that
too much for them to handle.
Musicians, for the most part, artists are sensitive people.
Yeah.
And they're also introverts.
Right.
So we like to. I was thinking with the slap heard around the world.
Right.
That when we're on stage, it's our protected turf.
Right.
We don't ever expect anybody to violate that perimeter.
True.
And come up and smack you in the face.
True.
Much less a peer.
Yeah.
One who's in the business also. So when you're famous, like if I'm on the stage at Woodstock, it's true. There's like 400,000, 500,000 people out there, but I'm not really interacting with them.
Well, yeah,
I'm
because you've
singing
got
a song.
space. Yeah.
And I can hear them.
Yeah.
I can hear them respond. Let you hear clap your hands, but it's not like having a conversation with people.
Right.
So and then people get really famous, and the people want them to do interviews, and they don't know what to say, and it's a lot of pressure, and it happens. The Foo Fighters drummer,
Right.
50 years old,
Yeah.
and he had a plethora of stuff inside him.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, he was
like
apparently
at least 4
super full of drugs and
full of
alcohol.
drugs.
Yeah.
Full of drugs.
Yeah.
Because there's this myth that, well, it goes back to, the old masters were drunk, and that made them great.
Drug addicts or whatever.
And it made them great. But,
Right.
But it didn't make them great. They were great before that.
Right. Right.
And it's hard to come
Like
to...
when all of Charlie Parker's proteges started shooting dope, or women become, Billie Holiday fans and figure if they're heroin addicts, that'll
Right.
give them a legit thing.
But music is wonderful. I
is.
I can't imagine a world without music.
No, I can't either.
And
And you've done so many, the other thing I was going to say is you've done so many different kind of projects
Right.
over your career. I mean, you started doing country in the early 70s in Nashville.
the Woody Guthrie album.
Woody Guthrie records that you did.
And I did a Robert W. Service poems. I put the
That's
music about
awesome.
World War I.
That's amazing.
It
Yeah.
turned out wonderful.
It's really wonderful.
And a lot of Vietnam songs, and Florence Nightingale kind of thematic things. I like putting it together, and I was kind of disappointed that I never got an opportunity to do something like that on a higher theatrical level. But I have to accept the fact that the fuck cheer really ruined my career.
Ruined it for you.
It really
It made you famous on one hand, but
But I know people love that.
never got an Ed Sullivan.
But people love the fuck cheer.
They do.
They really love it.
They do.
And I guess I'm kind of responsible.
You broke it wide open.
I should get a royalty from.
You should. Every time someone says fuck, you should get a royalty. You would be one of the wealthiest people on the planet.
We've actually trademarked, copywritten the fuck cheer.
Have you?
Yeah, but it has to be the cheer, not just the
okay.
word fuck.
Now, you told me Chicken Hirsch kind of came up with that idea.
He came
right?
up with the idea
Yeah.
that we changed the fish cheer to the fuck cheer for the
Right.
first time in Tompkins Square
Tompkins Glen or something.
in Central Park.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we got banned from the Ed Sullivan Show for
Right.
doing that.
Right.
But I've used the fuck cheer ever since then, and I had a solo career many times, and I was doing solo in Germany for one of the first times, and we would go to radio stations and TV stations, and they would always talk in German, and they would say fuck. I mean, they would be talking, and it's television, just in a statewide, the state-controlled television at that time, and radio, and they would say like, in German, blah, 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 fuck, blah, 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 Woodstock, blah, 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 Country Joe, fuck, blah, 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 blah. So we did like about 3 of these things. It was one tour guide and me in a car, and I said to him, wow, I mean, this is really a progressive country, I guess, because, I mean, you can't say fuck on the radio and TV in the States. I mean, they'd get fired, and it would be horrible. And he said, no, you don't understand. In German, the word is ficken, which means fucking, intercourse.
Ah.
So when you do the fuck cheer, they don't know what you're talking about.
You needed to say, give me a fekin.
So I realized if I'd have done the feek cheer in
Right.
Woodstock, I wouldn't have ruined my career. And
No.
of course, nobody would have understood.
Then you would have been famous in Germany.
I would have been infamous in Germany for doing the feek cheer, yeah.
Well, Joe, I want to thank you.
All right, we did
You're
it.
always a pleasure to talk to, and I love your stories. You got a great way of telling them, too.